HR called me crying from the police station. That sentence alone should have told me the day was about to go sideways. But at 8:43 a.m., all I heard was her voice. Shaky, broken, and too early for panic. "Mark, they took Claire. She's in custody." I remember staring at the half-finished coffee on my desk, the steam thinning into the air like it was escaping the room before I could. Outside my office window, people were walking their dogs, carrying briefcases, buying bagels. Normal life. Inside, my phone was buzzing like a warning. "Wait, what? Who took her?" "The police. They came straight to the office. It was there. They had a warrant. Mark, she was yelling your name." The sentence hung there like a blade. My name? Why mine? I didn't speak for maybe 5 seconds, long enough for her to fill the silence with breath. "They said it's about the data breach from last week, but it doesn't make sense. They said she's connected to it. Something about exported client files." Claire, head of operations, my boss, charismatic, brilliant, sharp enough to cut glass, and impossible to like for longer than a meeting. She ran her team like a military unit, except the enemy was everyone else in the building. Still, she got results. And in this company, results bought immunity. Until this morning. I stood up, pulled on my jacket, and walked out before thinking. HR never calls you from a police station. That's not a thing that happens. But her voice, Emma's, sounded like she needed someone who didn't talk, just moved. The elevator was full of the usual faces. Half-awake analysts scrolling through emails, one guy already arguing about deadlines. I kept my phone in my palm like a detonator. Every vibration hit a little harder. On the drive over, my head filled with static. Why me? Why did Claire say my name? I'd handled the internal audit logs after the breach. The access trail was clean. No flags, no exports, no evidence of external transfer. I'd written the summary myself. Claire had signed it. When I reached the station, Emma was outside, still in her office clothes, hair coming undone like she'd tried to outrun something that caught up anyway. She looked smaller than I remembered. "They wouldn't let me stay," she said, eyes red. "They said she's being processed. She kept saying it wasn't her. She said she was set up. Then she said your name again." "Did she say why?" Emma shook her head. "She said you'd know." I didn't. Inside, the air smelled like cold metal and stress. I gave my name at the desk. The officer looked up, recognition flickering across his face like he already had my file in his head. "She asked for you," he said. "You can wait, but she's not ready for visitors." I sat. The chair creaked. The fluorescent lights hummed like they were judging everyone equally. My phone lit up. Workgroup chat. "Operations. Urgent. All team leads. Report to conference room A at 10 a.m. Mandatory. HR and legal present." So it was official. The kind of official that means someone's going to get erased. Emma sat beside me. "You think she did it?" I didn't answer. I thought about Claire's office. Spotless. Symmetrical. Always smelling faintly of mint and control. She wasn't sloppy. She didn't make dumb moves. If her name was on a data breach, it was because someone wanted it there. At 9:56, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I stepped outside to answer. A low voice. "Mr. Hanley, this is Detective Torres. We'd like to ask you a few questions about Ms. Wright's activities last week. The kind of tone that sounds polite only because it doesn't need to be." "I'm on my way to work," I said. "That's fine. We can talk there." The line clicked dead. Emma looked at me. "They're coming, aren't they?" "Yeah," I said. "They are." We drove back to the office in silence. The building looked normal. People badging in, security at the front desk pretending not to care. But the air felt different. Like everyone knew something was happening and no one wanted to be in the frame when it exploded. I walked through the lobby, the echo of my shoes swallowed by carpet. In the glass reflection, my face looked calm. It always did. Calm was the armor that kept you from being the next name on the list. By 10:02, the conference room was full. Legal, HR, department heads, A few people from IT who looked like they hadn't slept. Claire's chair was empty. Emma sat at the far end, eyes fixed on the table. The VP of Legal, Carter, cleared his throat. This morning, Claire Wright was detained in connection with a confirmed data exfiltration incident. Evidence points to unauthorized transfers originating from her credentials. She denies involvement. He paused, scanning the room like a drone. We'll be conducting internal interviews. Please cooperate fully. Someone asked, Is she okay? She's cooperating, Carter said, which meant she wasn't. My phone buzzed again. One new email. No subject line, no signature, just a single sentence. Check your access logs before they change them. I looked up. Across the table, Carter's eyes met mine. He knew, or thought he did. I closed my phone. The meeting dissolved into whispers, papers shuffling, chairs scraping. Emma caught my arm on the way out. Mark, what does that mean? Check your logs? It means, I said quietly, someone's rewriting the story. Outside the glass walls, people went back to pretending the company was fine. The hum of productivity returned, artificial and loud. But under it, something else had started. A current of fear you could almost hear if you stopped pretending for long enough. And in that moment, standing in the middle of a building that ran on lies and coffee, I realized I wasn't just part of the cleanup. I was part of the cover-up. I didn't know it yet. But that call was the beginning of the end for all of us. But that was just the beginning. The next morning, my badge didn't work. The light blinked red once, sharp and clean, like punctuation at the end of a sentence I hadn't finished. Security called over the desk, then looked up at me with that polite discomfort people use when they already know you're the problem. Mark, you'll need to check in with IT before you can enter. I didn't argue. I walked past the lobby plants, across the glossy floor that reflected a version of me that looked guilty, even though I hadn't done anything. Inside, HR was waiting. Emma stood beside a man in a dark suit I didn't recognize. Legal. He introduced himself as Mr. Bloom, which sounded like a name that apologized for existing. Mark, this is just a procedural suspension of access, he said, offering a chair I didn't take. While we review Claire Wright's case, we're extending the hold to any employees involved in data handling during the breach. Involved, I repeated. That's an interesting word. Bloom smiled the way people do when they're told not to answer a question. We appreciate your cooperation. Emma didn't meet my eyes. That told me enough. They escorted me to an empty conference room, a neutral space. The blinds were half closed. The table bare except for a bottle of water and a printout of my audit logs. Someone had highlighted timestamps, like wounds. Bloom slid the papers toward me. You're the last person who reviewed the access trail. These entries, he tapped the page, show a credential activity at 2:14 a.m., system admin level. That's you, correct? I leaned forward. No. I log out at 6. You can check the VPN records. We did. The activity came from your home IP. That hit like a static shock. Then someone spoofed it. Bloom's voice stayed steady. Can you prove that? I almost laughed. You're asking me to prove I didn't do something on a system I no longer have access to. He tilted his head. It's just procedure. Yeah, I said. And procedure usually means someone's already decided what the story is. He didn't respond. Emma shifted in her seat, her hands gripping the file like it was a life raft. I watched her mouth move slightly before she spoke. Mark, Claire said you were the one person who could clear her name. That threw me. She said that? Emma nodded. She said you had the logs, that you could prove it wasn't her. I don't, I said. Not anymore. Bloom closed the folder. Then perhaps this is bigger than both of you. I left before he could say more. My desk looked the same. Mug, monitor, a plant that hadn't noticed the crisis. A couple of coworkers watched me from across the room. When people think you've done something wrong, they don't look angry. They look curious, like they're waiting to see if you'll fit the story they're building in their heads. By noon, my inbox was locked. My Slack icon turned gray. I was officially a ghost in a company that still had my name on the door. At 1 p.m., my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I answered, expecting legal. It was Claire. Her voice was low, steady, not like the shouting version of her I'd seen in meetings. "They're setting me up," she said, "and they'll come for you next." "Why would they?" "Because you're the one who found it," she said. "The breach, the report. You touched the files. That's all they need. They planted something in my credentials. I thought I could contain it. I was wrong. You said my name to the police. I had to. It keeps you in the circle. If they think you know nothing, they'll cut you loose and make me the entire story. If they think you might know something, they'll keep watching you." "That's not comfort," I said. "It's survival," she replied. "Check the version history on the audit summary, the one you filed." Then the line went dead. At home, I opened my laptop, the personal one, logged into the VPN using an old sandbox connection I'd built for testing. I shouldn't have been able to access anything, but someone had forgotten to revoke my external cache credentials. A door left half open. The audit file was there, but it wasn't mine anymore. Someone had rewritten sections, changed timestamps, swapped session IDs. The signature block still said Mark Hanley, but the data pointed to an upload path that never existed. A perfect forgery. I sat back in my chair. The truth hit like cold water. Someone inside was rewriting the logs in real time. I saved everything to a drive. Screenshots, metadata, copies of the altered files. Then I disconnected. If I was right, the company wasn't covering for Claire. They were covering for themselves. At 7:12 p.m., Emma called. I almost didn't answer. "They're saying you tampered with evidence," she whispered. "Mark, I swear I didn't tell them anything." "I know," I cut in, "but they're moving fast, aren't they?" "Yes, they're meeting with legal tonight. Carter's in the building. He's been there since morning." "Carter," I said quietly. "He was the one who signed off on the data protection budget last quarter. The one Claire tried to block." Emma hesitated. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying this isn't about the breach. It's about who takes the fall." Silence. Then softly, "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," I said. "Yet." After we hung up, I walked out to the porch. The city was quiet, all sound pressed flat by the night. Somewhere the company's servers were humming, rewriting the past one line of code at a time. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched the clock roll over, each minute feeling heavier. I thought about loyalty, what it costs, who deserves it. By morning, I'd made a decision. I wasn't going to defend anyone else. Not Claire, not the company, not even Emma. That night, I stopped defending people who never would have done the same for me. They thought I was gone. I wasn't. 3 days passed before anyone at the company mentioned my name again. My access was revoked, my keycard deactivated, my chair quietly reassigned to an intern who didn't know he was sitting in a ghost seat. It was perfect. People stop fearing you once they think you've disappeared. That was the cover I needed. The flash drive arrived on a Thursday. No note, no return address. Just a small, plain envelope wedged under my apartment door. Inside, a black USB stick labeled Internal Backup 14 in sharp white ink. For a full minute, I just stared at it, the way you stare at something that could either burn you or save you. Then I plugged it in. The folder structure was familiar. Too familiar. I'd built it myself. The directories were from our secure archive. Compliance logs, email exports, access trails. But buried 2 layers deep was a subfolder that shouldn't exist. Admin, log, archive, VP Carter. When I opened it, I stopped breathing. There it was, an unencrypted document chain linking the data breach to an internal transaction. Timestamps, IP logs, digital signatures, all pointing to the same account. Not Claire's, Carter's, the man who had led the investigation. The same one who'd spoken at the all-hands about integrity and trust, while everyone pretended to care. I read through line after line, server calls, encrypted handshakes, credential keys, The pattern was flawless. Too flawless. He'd set Claire up, funneled the breach under her login, then buried the real export under encrypted admin access routed through a subsidiary. A move only someone on the board could authorize. And at the bottom of the trail, a wire transfer. 7 figures. Foreign account. Corporate betrayal dressed up as protocol. I leaned back, the kind of stillness that comes after a punch you didn't dodge. For a few hours I didn't move. The drive sat beside my keyboard like it was alive. Then my phone buzzed. "Emma, I quit," she said, voice flat. "Effective immediately. I can't be part of this anymore." I didn't ask why. I already knew. "Emma, did you send me something?" A pause. "I didn't. But I made sure something found you." Her voice cracked a little. "If you're still the man I think you are, do something with it." And then she hung up. The room went quiet again, the kind of quiet where every decision feels permanent. At 10 p.m., I drove back to the office. Not inside, just the street across. I watched the building glow, floor by floor, like a grid of secrets. I thought about every employee inside who still believed the company cared about doing what's right. And I thought about Claire, arrogant, difficult Claire, sitting in a holding cell while the real thief slept in a penthouse. By midnight, I'd made up my mind. No revenge speeches, no righteous post, just code, clean and surgical. I booted the old laptop I'd kept from a previous contract. No monitoring software, no traceable accounts. Logged into an anonymous proxy chain I'd built years ago for penetration testing. The kind of tool that was never meant for justice, but it would do. The drive's contents mirrored to a secure temp server. I formatted the logs into a visual timeline. Names, dates, access points, transfer records. I stripped the metadata, redacted employee IDs, and compiled it into a PDF titled Truth Audit v Final. It wasn't art. It was evidence. At 2:41 a.m., I logged into the company's internal employee portal, the one that displayed newsletters, birthdays, compliance memos, corporate fluff. I'd helped write its security policy, which meant I knew its blind spots. Within 10 minutes, the upload was complete. The file replaced the weekly CEO update on the homepage. The moment someone logged in the next morning, they wouldn't see an inspirational quote about teamwork. They'd see the entire network map of their corruption. I sat back and stared at the loading bar. The cursor blinked. The word publish hovered on the screen. For a second I hesitated, because pressing that key wasn't about exposing them anymore. It was about burning everything. Their lies, my job, my safety. Then I thought of Emma's voice. "If you're still the man I think you are." I hit enter. The screen flickered once. Then it was done. No sirens, no cinematic music, just the quiet hum of the fan and the faint scent of ozone from overworked circuits. I sat there, listening to the soft electric heartbeat of a laptop that had just detonated a career. When I hit enter, I knew I wasn't saving a company. I was burning a lie. And then silence, the kind that means something's gone wrong. When I woke up the next morning, my phone had 43 missed calls. None of them from Emma, none from Claire. All from numbers that started with the company's area code. I didn't answer any. Instead, I made coffee. The same routine as always. Grind, pour, wait. But even the machine sounded different. The air outside felt charged, like the city knew something had cracked in the glass. At 8:17 a.m., my inbox exploded. Subject: Urgent, internal network compromised. From IT Security, AlliedSystems.com. The message was short. Please disconnect from the corporate VPN immediately. Do not access the internal network. Legal and HR will be in contact. Below that, a dozen forward chains, panic spreading like heat through wire. Screenshots of the leaked document were already on Reddit, LinkedIn, even Twitter. Thousands of employees saw what I had posted before IT shut it down. Carter's name was everywhere. His transactions, the offshore account, the fake audit trails, all of it public. The company's Integrity First banner now looked like a joke printed in fire. By noon, the news broke. Senior executive at Allied Systems under federal investigation for data, tampering, and corporate fraud. Claire was released from custody 2 hours later. I watched it unfold on a muted TV in a diner, the kind that still serves coffee that tastes like rust and sugar. Her face was pale, but her eyes were alive. That sharpness that used to slice through everyone else, now turned inward, toward the camera. I told them, she said. The truth was inside the system all along. She didn't mention me. I didn't expect her to. A part of me wanted to feel vindicated, to smile at the poetic symmetry of it all, but all I felt was stillness, like my heartbeat had finally caught up with the rest of the world and decided to slow down. The company released a statement that afternoon, all corporate language and no confession. We are cooperating fully with the authorities, which in translation means, we're bleeding, but we'll try not to show it. By evening, my name was out there. Anonymous at first. A former IT security employee exposed the truth, then less anonymous. The story moved faster than I could run. Journalists emailed, former coworkers texted, "Are you okay?" with the same tone people use when they see a car wreck from across the street. I didn't reply. I deleted every file, wiped every backup, reformatted the old laptop until it was nothing but a hum and an empty screen. Then I took it apart, piece by piece, until it looked like a skeleton that had done its job. The next day, I resigned. No grand speech, no heroic post online, just a 2-sentence email. Effective immediately. Thank you for the opportunity. No one responded. That's the thing about exposure. Once you bring light into a room, everyone runs. Claire called me that night. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity is a stubborn thing. "You did it," she said quietly. "Didn't you?" "You told me to check the logs," I answered. Silence. Then, "You burned them down?" "I didn't burn anything," I said. "I just opened the blinds." She exhaled softly. "They'll rebuild. They always do." "I know." "And you?" "I'll start over. Somewhere quieter." She laughed once. Short, sharp, a sound without joy. "You're not built for quiet, Mark." "Maybe not, but I'm done with noise that lies." When we hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. The hum of the refrigerator filled the room like white noise, steady and forgiving. Days blurred into weeks. The headlines faded, as they always do. Carter resigned for personal reasons, which meant he'd negotiated his way out before the handcuffs caught up. Claire vanished from the press entirely. Emma sent me one final message. "For what it's worth, I still think you did the right thing." No signature, just that. I read it twice, then archived it. Some messages don't need answers. They just need to exist. I moved to a smaller city, took contract work fixing systems no one cared enough to corrupt. My days became quieter, my nights cleaner. I stopped looking over my shoulder. Sometimes I still wake up expecting the phone to ring. Sometimes it does. Wrong numbers, recruiters, silence, but mostly it doesn't. And that's peace, I think, not celebration, not justice screaming from rooftops, just the absence of noise. People imagine karma as thunder, loud, cinematic, dramatic, but it's not. It's an empty inbox, a front door that no one's banging on, a morning coffee that stays warm long enough to finish it. Claire once told me the company ran on trust. She was right, only she didn't realize what happens when you take that fuel away. Now, when people ask what happened, I tell them the truth in one sentence. The system corrected itself. Then I finish my coffee, close my laptop, and let the silence stay. Because peace isn't what you find after revenge. It's what's left when you stop needing one.